Hello and welcome to this pre-recorded event for GCSE Unit 11, Islam. To help you get the most out of this feedback, you may want to have the following documents handy, as we will refer to them during the session. A copy of pages 58 to 62 and 125 to 126, the glossary of terms of the current specification. A copy of the 2015 question paper and the accompanying mark scheme, which can be downloaded from the Edexcel website. The report on this year's paper by the principal examiner. It would be worth pausing this presentation to access these documents, if you have not already done so. By the end of this session, you should have a clearer understanding of how the paper was marked and how best to help your students reach even higher standards. All the question papers in this specification follow the same format. It can be a valuable exercise to look at this with your students, so that they know what to expect when they sit the examination. The paper is divided into 4 parts, each based on one section of the specification. Look at pages 59 to 62 of the specification and compare it with the examination paper. Students should be told to limit their answers in each part to the relevant material for that section. The format for each question is the same throughout the paper. It will have 4 parts, A, B, C, and D. Candidates who achieve the highest marks are clearly familiar with this and develop the skills to use information in the correct way to answer each part of the question. So when answering A sub-questions, they use the glossary definition and do not waste time writing more than is necessary. In B sub-questions, they clarify their opinion by starting their answer with I think, because, and then go on to develop 2 clear reasons for their opinion. In C sub-questions, they ascertain whether the question is asking for reasons why, explaining how, or whether it requires a detailed explanation of something. Part D of each question has 2 parts, 1 and 2. In 1, they should start with either I agree or I disagree, and then give the reasons for their opinion. And in 2, they should give the opposite point of view supported by reasons. In the following slides, we will look at these in more detail, so that you can see how candidates gained or lost marks on this year's examination. We will begin with the A items. On pages 125 and 126 of the specification, you will find each key word with its definition. Each A item is worth 2 marks, and in the mark scheme, there are at least 2 full-mark definitions which correspond to the glossary, and also 1 partially correct answer. Look at section 1 in more detail. It is generally possible to identify key elements in the definition. Each definition contains 2 elements, whether in the definition itself or in the explanatory bracket that follows it. Both should be referred to in an answer. For example, Deen means way of life. The brackets shown in the glossary suggest that both belief and practice need to be included in order to get 2 marks. This is clear in the example on the slide. Al-Qadar means Allah's control of future events. In order to get full marks, Candidates must have both Allah and future in their answer. Now, looking at section 2. Ummah means the worldwide Muslim community. A candidate who wrote the Muslim community was only able to get 1 mark, as the true concept of the Ummah is that it is worldwide. Although time-consuming, it is worth going through each key word to identify exactly what are the important elements. Many candidates lost marks on A items because they failed to show that they really knew the correct definition. So the example here is of 6A, where the candidate has not really defined what Eid al-Adha is, but has reused the word Eid and not shown any understanding of celebration or festival. Also, in question 7A, what is meant by halal, candidates who wrote, "It is about what food Muslims can eat," misunderstood the concept of halal as meaning anything that is allowed, and so were only credited with 1 mark for mentioning food as an example of something that is halal. The candidates who achieved the best marks always gave a clear response to the question, either by using the glossary definition or an alternative wording which demonstrated their knowledge. B items are slightly more complex, because they expect candidates to use their knowledge to show understanding of a topic. In this example, the candidate has started with "I think," thus showing that it is their opinion. Candidates who did not clearly indicate that it was their opinion did not receive any marks. In this example, it is followed by 2 reasons, both of which are developed. This is another example of a good B answer, which received full marks. Development is not a random statement or another reason, but must link to the question and to the reason already given. The difference between development of a reason and adding another reason is clearly shown in this example. None of the statements actually adds any information to the previous one. In this next example, the candidate started well with a clear personal opinion. "I don't think the differences between the Muslim groups matter," followed by a developed reason. "All Muslims have the same belief in Tawhid, which means they are all obeying Allah." The answer then gives a reason which does not support their opinion. "The differences make them fight against each other." This reason could not be credited. Remind your students that no marks are awarded unless there is a clear personal opinion indicated by "I think," and that to obtain full marks, 2 developed reasons should be given in support of their opinion. Candidates who discussed why people disagreed with their opinion in B questions gained no marks for doing so. Activity 1 is for you to mark the example given. It would be best to pause here, award a mark, and then go on to the next slide to evaluate your own performance. This shows you how and where the marks were awarded. Did you agree? Analyze any differences. Try this with your students so that they can see the difference between development and just adding another reason. You could use it to explain how development must link to both the question and the reason. Some candidates lost marks on B questions because they gave one reason and then fully developed it without giving a second reason, even though two reasons are clearly asked for. This year, the C items were answered really well. Only 7C caused problems, because many candidates described the dress laws instead of giving reasons for their importance. We will look at an example later. This answer received 8 marks for giving 3 reasons and developing one of them. Other candidates gave 2 reasons, but developed them both, so also gained the full 8 marks. Some candidates were able to give 1 reason, which they developed so fully that they also gained 8 marks. The mark scheme indicates quite clearly the different ways full marks can be gained on C items. This answer to 7C does not address the reasons for the importance of the dress laws, but simply says what they are, so it could only reach level 1, which is only worth 2 marks. Explain how questions, as in this example of 4C, were usually answered well, as most candidates displayed excellent knowledge. However, some candidates simply wrote about the Ummah praying together or celebrating Eid together, without linking these activities to how they might affect a Muslim's life. Many responses on question 3C, the role of the Imam, were outstanding. It is important that candidates read the question carefully to ascertain exactly what is being asked. Some candidates, especially in the last section, when they appeared to be short of time, gave bullet point answers, which gave no indication that they were in fact answering a question about the importance of the dress laws in 7C, or the importance of the laws of halal and haram in 8C. D items expect a candidate to evaluate a statement and then give reasons for opinions on both sides of an argument. In answering D1, candidates must state whether they agree with the statement or disagree with the statement, and then give the reasons for their opinion. Candidates who write, for example, "Muslims agree with this statement because," but do not indicate that this is their view, will not be credited, as D1 is about their opinion. It is D2 that gives them the opportunity to give an opposite viewpoint. Find question 6D on this year's question paper. Pause the recording and attempt activity 2. How did you get on? Remember that candidates have about 20 minutes to answer all 4 parts of a question, so probably would not be able to spend more than 8 minutes on this item. The best candidates were those who had clearly practiced writing to a formula. The most common mistakes candidates made were when they disagreed with the statement and then got confused in D2 where they needed to show opinions opposite to theirs, which should have agreed with the statement. When they misunderstood the question. For example, in 7D, many candidates did not realize that the question was about relieving suffering being the most important teaching. Instead of thinking about the teaching, they focused on suffering, and having written that the Prophet helped others, were then unable to write about a different opinion. This is an excellent response, because the candidate has not only stated that Arafat is the most important part of Hajj, but has then developed the reason for that statement. This is the second part of the candidate's response, D2. And again, the candidate has clearly stated the opposite viewpoint and used 3 reasons to support this view. Some candidates tried to disguise their lack of knowledge by answering several questions by repeating phrases such as, "I agree with the statement because it is written in the Quran, and that is the word of Allah." However, if there was no evidence that the candidate had any knowledge of a topic, full marks could not be awarded. Pause the presentation and try marking this next example of 8D. This shows you how the marks were awarded. Did you agree? In answering D questions, candidates should reflect on religious ideas and teaching, develop their ideas, and evaluate other opinions and attitudes, using their knowledge to support their views. The examiner was not judging their opinion, but looking for reasons that supported it. The summary on page 58 of the Principal Examiner's report gives some useful tips and comments to help your students improve their performance.